Hey, good evening, everyone. We are here. It's been a little while since we've been on a stream. We are being joined today by the famous, maybe infamous, depending on where you come from, Mile High Mario. We're going to get to know him a little bit. We're going to talk some all things Colorado tonight. It's going to be a lot of Mountain Time Zone stuff. So if that's not your gig, then hang out until we do the Javonte Williams auto giveaway. But
Am I
first and foremost,
eligible to
Mario,
win that,
what's
or
that?
am I
Sure.
am I am I eligible? Yeah. Okay. Good.
I think
I
so.
wanna I wanna get my hands on that bad boy. I'm
Yeah, yeah,
doing
yeah, yeah.
great, guys. Man, I'm so thrilled that you guys reached out to me, and I'm just excited. I really appreciate you having me on. Okay, I can't do it with these glasses anymore. Glasses are
Okay,
coming off. Okay. Did it for as long as I could. Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you guys and get it rolling, man.
perfect. So Mario, tell us. I mean, give us a little background. I know from following you on Twitter, you're all things Colorado. So kind of tell the audience a little bit about yourself and how that came to be. And um,
Yeah, for sure. So, born and raised in Colorado, my whole life. Lived a year in Missouri. Wouldn't recommend it for any particular reason. I did it for school. And my dad started working on Bronco players. He was a chiropractor for over 50 years. And he started working on Bronco players back in the 70s, in the days of Otis Armstrong and Rick Upchurch. Um, and so when I kind of broke into the business doing body work and stuff like that, it was kind of like I was thrown into the deep end, and it was a sink or swim thing, right? Because I had grown up watching my dad work on all these famous football players, like Steve Atwater would come to our house. We lived two doors down from Neil Smith, who would come over. Yeah, exactly. Uh, we would go over to Rod Smith's house a bunch, and so, it's hard to not be a Broncos fan when you're meeting these guys, right? Like Steve Atwater came into my third grade class because I told my teacher that I was friends with Steve Atwater, and I'm in third grade, and he's like, "This little kid's such a liar," and he's like, "Mario, you shouldn't lie," and I'm like, "No, I'm serious." I told my dad, like, "Hey, my teacher doesn't believe me that I'm friends with Rod Smith or with Steve Atwater." And a couple days later, my dad told Steve, and Steve showed up to my third grade class, signed autographs. My teacher's just there like, what? So growing up, man, just my dad used to take me to games at, I mean, honestly, every sporting event, like when the Avalanche were around and they won the Stanley Cup in '96 in their first year, we went to a bunch of games at the old McNichols Arena. We went to the very first Rockies game at Coors Field. We used to go to Bronco games at Old Mile High. Went to the very first game that was at Invesco, is what it was called at the time. My dad was actually the official chiropractor in 1998. And so we got to go to the Super Bowl and actually watch them win Super Bowl 33. So was always just like indoctrinated into sports, man. He took me to as many games as possible. And so obviously I'm all about Broncos, but I love all Colorado sports. I went to CU Boulder, and so as difficult as it is, I'm a Buff fan as well. And then now I work in the market, and I'm trying to carry on the legacy that my dad started and keeping the Bronco players on the field as best I can.
yeah, I read an article. I think maybe it was the Gazette did.
George Stoya, yeah.
Yeah, tribute to your dad, and that was really cool.
Yeah, George did a really good job for
So
sure.
that was interesting to read and gave me a little more background on kind of your legacy. But I know that a lot of people may not have found that or wouldn't know. So that was a great tribute to him and
Yeah, for
you
sure.
carrying on that legacy. So we're in the same boat. I went to see you. Um,
My
I went
man.
there so
Hey,
long
it's the
ago.
times are tough right now, but we got
We
to we got to
we
hang
were
in
good
there.
at football. My freshman year was Rashawn's Heisman year, so
Oh, wow.
I got to
Okay.
see some good football.
Hey, my
Uh,
sister was a dancer for them when they won the Natty in 1990.
oh wow,
Yeah, she's considerably older than me though. Like, not to throw her under the bus, like she's way older than me. So
nice. So we're gonna kind of breeze through and recap a little bit of what's happened. We'll get to some Broncos stuff here in a little bit. Um, but this spring, I think things have if you're a Colorado sports fan, it's I don't want to say it's good as it's been, but it is pretty darn good right now. We've got the Stanley Cup champs, right?
Unreal.
And that was an amazing run. That was so much fun to watch. And here we're in Central Iowa, so we don't get to see very many games during the year.
Hey man, we don't get to see a lot of games in Colorado either.
I suppose so.
With the cable disputes, man. So yeah, you're in the same boat as the rest of us.
Yeah, so we got that, but that run was incredible. I was in Ireland when they won at like 3 a.m. in the morning or whatever it was, which was
that's crazy,
kind of bonkers. And I was trying to stay up and didn't quite make it. And the first thing I did when I woke up in the morning was check my phone.
Check the score. Yeah, I've had to.
They got that, but going into next year, repeating anything's hard. And anytime you're a winner, everyone wants to take your players or sign them if they're available. We've already lost the goalie, so Kemper's gone. I think that's kind of the next question. I think the offensive firepower is there, but how do you make another run at it? Do you have any thoughts on?
I mean, honestly, man, I think the core pieces that they want to have intact, they've still got there. McKinnon, Makar, Landeskog, obviously being the big three. I think retaining Nichushkin was huge because he was unbelievable. Arturi Lankinen was another guy that I wasn't sure they would be able to keep around, and he's still there. You kind of figured that Burakovsky was on his way out because they just can't keep everybody, right? Like you said, you win a Stanley Cup, and teams want to pick off your players. Now with Darcy Kemper, the thing with like I guess I should say the year before was as long as we have a goaltender that is just average to above average, like we'll have a solid game here and there, but for the most part, like it's almost like a game manager in football, right? It's like he's not going to stand on his head and win you a lot of games, but he's not going to lose you a lot of games. He's kind of like a game manager, so to speak, right? And I think they had said it was like the worst save percentage for a Stanley Cup winning goaltender in the last 20 or 30 years, like since the 80s, if I'm getting that right.
Yeah,
so
I saw something like that. Yeah.
So here's the thing. It's like, I love Darcy, and he got a lot of crap. And I think it's just because the expectations for this team were so high because the team was so unbelievably good. And so there was so much pressure on Darcy to be like, look, you're the weak link here, right? If the Avalanche don't win the Stanley Cup, it'll be because of goaltending. So there was immense pressure on him to get the job done. And so, the handful of games where he didn't necessarily show up and, he gave up a couple of goals that maybe he shouldn't have let past him. The point is he got the job done when he needed to, but he wasn't tremendous. He wasn't fantastic. It was so unbelievably obvious to see the difference between him and Vasilevsky, right? Like they're not even in the same stratosphere, and that's okay because he was just good enough. So going forward with Frankie and bringing in Georgiev, I think I pronounced his name right. I think it's more of the same. They really like what they saw from Georgie. They really like Frankie. Obviously, they might not win the cup without a capable backup like Frankie. And so it'll be interesting to see. I assume that Georgie is going to be the starter, but it could be a battle. Frankie is kind of the incumbent, I guess, and showed that. I mean, he pitched a shutout against Edmonton in the Western Conference Finals. That's unbelievable. Right. So I think it's just more of the same. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with Kadri, because early on I'm thinking, well, there's no way they can keep Kadri. He showed how much he was worth. The Avs don't win the cup without him. He had the feel-good story of not just this Stanley Cup playoffs, but of maybe like the last 10 or 15 Stanley Cup playoffs with the hat trick that he had in St. Louis. Like, that's a Disney script, man. You can't come up with anything better than that. And then his game winner against Tampa Bay, he played himself into a big contract, but now it's weird as everything's kind of come together that he still hasn't been signed. And so I don't know if it's a matter of he won a Stanley Cup, so he wants to be on a competitive team. He wants to continue winning. And maybe the competitive teams aren't willing to pay the money that he's kind of earned for himself, because I'm sure he's getting offers from lower tier teams, kind of like how we saw Burakovsky went to the Kraken, I believe. Yeah, Burakovsky, man, go get your money. They paid him more than I think most teams would have. And Kadri's not really in that boat, right? It seems like Kadri wants to make his money, but he really wants to win. So if they can find a way to bring Kadri back, man, that would be incredible, because I think that's the other big question mark, is who's going to be that second line center going into next season. So I think it's just going to be more of the same. I think they're going to fill the spots where they need. If goaltending ends up being an issue, what's Joe Sakic going to do? Before the trade deadline, he's going to go out and he's going to find a goaltender. It's like every need that they had, like they needed some tough guys. They needed some pests. They needed some dudes that could put the puck on the net, that could back check, forecheck. Sakic went out and he got those guys. He brought in the pieces that this team needed to win. And so we just have to have faith. It's like, that's what he's going to keep doing. It's the same as like Bronco fans, right? Everything that George Payton has done to this point really has worked out pretty well. So it's in Payton we trust, and in Sakic we trust. So I think for them, it's stay the course, realize that you have Cale Makar, and no other team has a Cale Makar. Very few other teams have a Nathan McKinnon. And as long as those guys are intact, man, you just get some pieces around them, and you're going to be competitive.
Yeah, it invigorated my enjoyment of watching hockey. I was, when the Labs won their first one, I remember living, eating, and breathing every game and hearing, because I had to leave work and was heading towards downtown when Krupp's game winner went in against Florida. I'm driving down I-25 right by old, it would have been Old Mile High, like losing my mind as they do that. And the talent level they have in there is reminiscent of those teams, the 96.
So stacked, man.
And
so unbelievably stacked. Yeah.
So I agree. They'll go out and get who they need to. So we're going to stay in the building, but we're going to pivot a little bit. And we're going to talk a little Nuggets. So I think Will's got a question for you.
What do the Nuggets need to reach the finals?
I think they need to be healthy, man. They seem to think that all the pieces are there, and they're really banking on the hope and the dream that Jamal Murray comes back, and not only comes back and is healthy, but he's like bubble Jamal Murray. Like he's the Jamal Murray that we saw in the bubble. They're hoping that MPJ can come back and be that perimeter shooter that they so desperately need, because you have Jokic, back-to-back MVP, and you're going to hear people, piss and moan about how, well, he shouldn't have been the MVP. They didn't get out of the first round of the playoffs, this, and that. And people that say that, they're just telling on themselves when it comes to, like, lack of basketball knowledge. It's like, tell me you haven't watched Jokic play without telling me you haven't watched Jokic play. So you get a guy like MPJ and Murray back, and I think KVP, who they went out and got, and I think it was Bowen who they went out and got. That's another team. Like the Nuggets went out and they got the pieces that they needed. And I know some people were disappointed that they didn't make a big splash during the offseason, and, didn't make a big splash during draft night. Like didn't really acquire any big names. But I think it's because they've got the three guys on the max deal already. So, you're either going to take this core that you put together the last several years, and you're really hoping you can finally see healthy, like these big three guys. And so that's kind of like the horse that they're tying their cart to right now, right? Is we need Jokic to keep being Jokic. We need Murray to get back to healthy Murray, and MPJ to be healthy MPJ. And then you just kind of fill in those slots. And so if they can stay healthy and we get those guys back to, like I said, like bubble Jamal Murray and the way MPJ was playing the year before he got hurt, that's going to give them the best chance to win a championship.
I'm on the same. If they're healthy, that team's got the firepower. You've got, maybe I'm biased, but you've got the best big man in basketball.
I think back-to-back MVPs would say that you're not biased.
Well, and I feel like as Nugget fans, he's so unconventional that he's just really hard for people that don't watch him to appreciate how good he is.
He's really unorthodox, right? It's like you watch him play, and the way that he plays shouldn't work. Like he feels like he's out of control. He feels like he's uncoordinated. He feels like he's just kind of like out there existing, but everything that he does works. And I don't know if that's part of his charm or part of what makes him so great is just like defenders see him and they're like, there's no way that he's going to hit a fadeaway 20-foot jumper off the wrong foot with, his momentum going in the opposite direction. And it's just wet, right? And so I don't know, like that's just it, and it's funny because I wonder if because he's not explosive, he's not like a Ja Morant where he's living above the rim. He's not a real, gifted ball handler the way like Steph Curry is, and obviously doesn't shoot from three the way Steph Curry does. Isn't quite as flashy as Embiid, and maybe with Embiid it's like a market thing. I don't know why people think that Embiid is better than Jokic, aside from the fact that they just don't watch Jokic play. And maybe that's it, man. Like maybe he doesn't get the respect that he really deserves. And he has all these people saying that he shouldn't be the MVP because he's just not flashy. The dude just goes out there, he puts up points, he grabs rebounds, he dishes out assists. And before you know it, he's hung like 20, 10, and 8 on you. And you had no idea that it even happened because not one of those single points was just like, oh my gosh, that was absolutely incredible. Like what an amazing shot. Like the dude just shows up and gets the job done and does it better than anybody.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry. Well, go ahead, buddy.
I feel like if the Nuggets, they need to stay like good with their bench because if they don't, then things just fall apart. Like they need to stay with Bones Highland, and then they need to find maybe even re-sign Boogie Cousins.
Yeah, I don't know, but I didn't pay attention. Boogie signed somewhere, didn't he?
I'm not sure. I haven't been real dialed into the NBA. If he hasn't, man, I'm with you, Will. I would love for them to bring back Boogie. I think you're dead on about Bones Highland. I think they got more out of him his rookie year than I think they really anticipated. And if they can like get MPJ back and then Bones Highland can continue to grow as a shooter, he's fantastic off the bench. And even if he needs to, start a couple games at shooting guard or even point guard, like if Murray needs a rest, I think that he can do that. But yeah, man, you're absolutely right. They have this great core that I talked about. But if you don't have a deep bench and you don't have guys that can come in and spell the superstars, then it doesn't really matter. So yeah, they definitely have to be strong on the bench as well.
And then with like a tall shooter like MPJ is just like he's 6'10", playing small forward and can shoot over you whenever he wants to.
Yeah, right. It's like Durant. Like the way that Kevin Durant plays, that's what we as Nuggets fans are like praying. And I'm not going to compare or say that he would ever reach that level, but if we can get like glimpses, right? Like if he can be the Kroger brand version or the discounted version or the off-brand version of a Kevin Durant, because yeah, man, you're right. It's like he's so long, he's so tall, and he has such a smooth stroke where he could just pull up from anywhere. How do you defend that? Yeah. So I'm with you 100% on that one.
So Mario, did you see the clip that was going around, I don't know, in the last couple weeks, and I'm sure you've seen it, but it was his bubble game where he dropped 36 and he had 6 dribbles.
If that's not the most absurd stat that I've ever heard, then I don't know what is, right? I mean,
so that's
how was that possible? I guess it was just catch and shoot, right?
And 4 of the dribbles were on one play.
So it's just catch and shoot, that quick release, and it can't be stopped.
I'll try and see if I can find it. I'll tag you in it if I can find it. And then Jamal's crazy reverse spin layup was floating around.
Oh, dude, that was the highlight of the bubble, right? Because didn't he do it against Gobert? And that was the year Gobert was like the second year in a row that he had won Defensive Player of the Year.
I think so.
And yeah, Murray pulled an MJ on that one.
And then like Murray also being able to get a little shifty. Like I think like I saw some bubble highlights of him just like thinking he like broke TJ Warren's ankles or something like that. Like just fell down.
Oh yeah, man. He's incredible. I think we just hope and we pray, please Jamal, please get better because he's so good. And I feel like people are starting to forget about him,
Yeah.
Like all the stuff that you guys are talking about, Will, like, breaking people's ankles and the unbelievable moves. Like he knows how to score the basketball. And of everything that the Nuggets were missing last year from Murray and MPJ and the injuries that they had, it was the fact that Murray can fill up the stat sheet. Like, the dude can just score, and he can take pressure off of Jokic. So if we could just please get him back healthy and let these people keep sleeping on the Nuggets because they all forgot how great Jamal Murray was. We just sneak up on all of them.
Yeah,
And
we need him healthy.
Jokic pretty much soloed us to the playoffs, even though we lost in the first round.
No, man, you're absolutely right. And I mean, yeah, they lost in the first round, and it's a bummer, but they lost to the eventual champions.
Yeah.
And I think everybody realized, like, whenever the Warriors got 100% healthy, they were going to be the team to beat. And you could tell, man, if they had a healthy MPJ and they had a healthy Murray, that would have been a complete. I mean, even if they had one or the other, I'm not saying that they win that series, but that's a way different series. Like, maybe they win some of those games that they couldn't pull out. Like, maybe at least take it to 7. But it would have been way different. And so, yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how that team looks next year.
If they would have helped stop Wiggins in that series, like, if they
Wiggins and Poole just came out of nowhere, didn't they? I was like, who's this Poole guy? He won't miss. He's killing us. Because that first couple games, Steph wasn't Steph, right?
Yeah.
And then Poole was like, man, chill, I got you. I'm like, who the hell's this guy?
Yeah, I'm again, I you've probably seen it. There was a tweet that went out, and I don't remember who it came from. It's like, it's good to be a Colorado sports fan. Avs, Stanley Cup champs, Nuggets, back-to-back MVP, Broncos, Russell Wilson, and then it said Rockies, best party deck in MLB.
I tweeted that, dude.
Was that you? Okay.
Yes.
Oh, man.
Hey, don't sleep on that party deck. Next time you come out to Colorado, if you're there during the baseball season, the party deck is fun.
So we've got a little rundown. There's not a single Rockies question on here because
that's good, because I haven't watched a single game, so I would not be of much use if we started talking Rockies.
After Arenado got dumped and we somehow had to pay all that money, I was like, I can't.
I'm with you, man. Yeah,
can't do it.
It's kind of been like a silent protest for me. I'm like, nope, I'm out.
Yep. This is a shorter topic, and we'll get the Broncos and NFL here in just a minute, because I think a lot of the folks, or the few that are in right now, hopefully we'll get some more. It's going to be a pretty quick giveaway. But anyway, college football, and I know we're not particularly good right now. It's pretty rough.
No, we're terrible.
But the Pac-12 losing USC and UCLA, and again, the landscape of college football changing again. What do the Pac-12 and the Big 12, the stems and seeds merge together? Like, what do we got going here?
I wish I knew, man, because a lot of this stuff took me by surprise. I wasn't shocked that, like, Texas and Oklahoma bolted for the SEC. That made sense. I mean, I didn't see it coming, but when it was announced, I'm like, yeah, I could see that. But USC and UCLA in the Big Ten, like, could you imagine those teams trying to play up in, like, the Great White North during November and December? It's like, what, UCLA, USC gonna go up to Wisconsin and play outdoors and do well? I don't know. Like, and it was just bizarre to me, right? But I mean, yeah, I don't really know where the Pac-12 goes from here. They've really been on a downward spiral, in recent history. I don't know if they've had a team yet that's made it to the college football playoff since they started doing a playoff. And so, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe their best bet is to just join up with the Big 12, and I think eventually we're going to get to the point where there's, like, just 2 conferences, right? Maybe 2, maybe 3, 4 at max. But sometime in the future, I think you're just going to have, like, 2 massive conferences, and it's almost going to be like the NFL, and it's just going to be a grab bag, right? It's like, oh, yeah, you guys just make your own schedule, play whoever you want. It's almost going to be like Notre Dame. Like, Notre Dame is not in a conference, and I feel like it's going to get to the point where there are so few conferences. Like we're going to see conferences start to disappear. Not next year, not 2 years from now, but maybe 10, 15 years from now, as it all kind of starts happening and coming together, there's going to be no need for a lot of these conferences because there's going to be 2 or 3 super conferences. And then it's going to get to the point where it's like, here are the competitive teams, like the teams that every year maybe have a chance to be good. And then here's all the other teams. And that's all of college football. Like that's all of the FCS, right? So, yeah, I mean, I wish I had a better answer for you. I have no idea. I like your idea of them joining up with the Big 12. I don't know how much it helps in the long run because, I mean, the Big 12 just lost its 2 heavy hitters.
Right.
And it just seems like the powers that are in charge of the Pac-12, football's not their top priority. You know, it's more of a basketball conference, more of a baseball conference. They're just like, yeah, if we can put some, you know, some semblance of like competitiveness out on the field for the Pac-12, that's great. But then they do the Pac-12 after dark and they kick off at like what, midnight on the East Coast. And we saw an example of that, like when Christian McCaffrey was at Stanford and he lost the Heisman to Derrick Henry. He didn't lose the Heisman to Derrick Henry because he had a worse year, because Derrick Henry deserved it more. He lost the Heisman because nobody ever saw him play because he went to Stanford. He played on the West Coast. His games didn't start till 7, 8 o'clock at night. By that time, all the sports writers on the East Coast are asleep.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's going to be a problem for a long time. It's a shame that CU had joined the Pac-12 from the jump. It's a shame they didn't stay in the Big 12 and then like wait it out and then make a jump elsewhere. And I don't know if they thought, well, if we join the Pac-12, maybe we can get back to being competitive because it's not a great conference. And they've just gotten worse, you know, save for a couple good years, man. It's been rough.
Yeah, that landscape's crazy, and I think I don't think the musical chairs is done. Super conferences are already presenting themselves, so it's going to be interesting, and obviously the money's going to rule it with the TV contracts. And I think I'm fingers crossed that that's one appealing part about Colorado is they more or less carry the Mountain Time Zone,
Right.
So. Or if they're on a network that anyone can actually watch, etc. That's a whole nother Larry Scott. Good riddance.
Yeah, good riddance for sure.
So, all right. Well, let's move in. I know you've been out at training camp a little bit, so I'm pretty interested to get some of your takes. And I know you've got a different perspective just with some of your relationships with some of the players on the team. And we'll roll into that real quick. Especially if you're watching live or you're running it back. If you're not following me, I don't know how you found us. But if you're not following Mario, then you should be. So there's where to go. I didn't turn the banner on. Let me try that. Now we got.
I gotta change my my Twitter name here. It's not off season anymore. I'd be training camp Mario now.
Yeah, training camp Mario now. So yeah, go ahead. You know, shoot us a follow. Mario's I've been following you for a while. Your Bronco takes, your Colorado takes, I appreciate.
Thanks, man.
So it's good to kind of get to chat with you and go forward from there. So I think Will's going to kick us off with some of the.
I have a question.
Oh, Will's got a question. That's good. Going off.
Hit me, man.
What did you think about Russell Wilson getting like the wide receivers and running backs to his house and then like doing drills with them in the summer?
Dude, I think it's unbelievable. I think the thing that we all knew about Russell Wilson before he ever became a Bronco is that he has an incredible work ethic and he's a very fierce competitor. And it seems like the reason that he wanted out of Seattle is because they weren't putting the ball in his hands enough. Pete Carroll wanted to run the ball more and more and more, and Russell Wilson wanted to throw the ball more and more and more. So I think that we see, I think it's accepted that if Russell Wilson isn't a Hall of Famer currently, that he's close, right? And it's not going to take much more to kind of like catapult him into that stratosphere. And so it's a brand new situation. You know, he's coming to a place he's never played. He's joining with a lot of players he's never played with. And he's spent a lot of time in the league. And so this is all really new to him. So for him to take that initiative and invite all of these guys out to his compound out in California and go through the plays and go through the cadences and go through, here's where I want you to break and here's how I want you to come out of your route. And when you do this, the ball is going to be here, and talking about different concepts, that's the best way to make sure that you get on the same page. I don't know, Will, if you've heard, some people talking like, oh, they might be slow out of the gate. They're running a new offense. They got a new head coach. It's going to take them a couple games to get ready. It's like, well, yeah, for most people, but Russell Wilson seems like he's different. The fact that he signed with Denver and then shortly after flew all of the receivers, all the tight ends, like you were saying, everybody out there to learn his offense and all get on the same page. I think that's an attempt to make sure that they don't take a lot of time to get on the same page, right? That they're already working. And so I absolutely love the fact that he took that initiative and he flew those guys out there. I was trying to get an invite, but it didn't work out. I was like, hey, man, you need me to catch the balls? Like, I got good hands. I almost walked on and see you. Like, I can play a little bit.
Let's chase it. I mean, I was cracking up in the video. Bowles is out there playing pickleball or whatever. I just was like, man,
he's low-key just one of the funniest people you will ever meet. Garrett is so funny, and he doesn't like doing interviews because it's just not really his thing. Like, he doesn't want to be famous. He doesn't want to really be a household name. He just wants to play football, be good at it, and win. And that's all he cares about. So he doesn't like doing interviews. But, man, like, when the cameras are turned off and it's kind of like behind the scenes, Garrett is one of the funniest human beings I have ever met. And I've even asked him, like, why don't you, like, show this side of you when you do interviews? And he's like, I don't know those people. Why should I do that?
Yeah, no, I am so happy for his journey. I just don't know. I'm trying to think back. Brian Greasy, trying to fill in Elway's shoes, might have been the last guy that Broncos.
You just really rooted for and wanted to do well.
Well, but they threw him on. I mean, they were so quick to throw Bowles under the bus and and it was. I mean, there were some games that were pretty tough, but then I don't know. I don't know if it was coaching. I don't know if he just a couple years in and now he's like, okay, I got it. But
I think it all just kind of came together, man. Like, it just clicked. And yeah, and it's interesting, like, that adversity that he was able to overcome is pretty incredible, right? Like, you have a string of, like, not great games, or you have a couple instances where, a couple years you're not really living up to the build of being a first round pick. And we all know about the hate and the vitriol that he got from a lot of Bronco fans. And for him to, like, sustain all that negativity and take all that in and do a complete 180 and turn into now a all-pro guy, it's incredible. Like, how often do you see that where a guy struggles that much in his first couple of years and then he just turns everything around and becomes one of, if not the best players on your team? It's incredible.
He's I just love the story. I loved your picture with him the other day.
That's my guy, man. I've worked on him since he was a rookie, and so we've been through the bad times together. We've been through the good times together. We've been through it all. So that's my guy, man. He's very, very near and dear to my heart. He's my big little brother.
That's awesome.
And then, like, I think Russell Wilson is really dedicated to getting to know what each player does and, like, what he wants them to do and what they need to get better at. Like, just that's what I like about him. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
He wants to get involved. He doesn't want to be, like, staying back and, like, just being like, I'm waiting until training camp.
Just like every single quarterback we had since Peyton Manning, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I am the optimism. We've got some kind of fun things coming up that I think will play into expectations, and I think managing them. I know we have a ton of weapons, but we also have two very talented running backs. So I don't think it'll be Pete Carroll style, but I think we're going to see a heavy dose of Javonte and Melvin this year running the ball.
Yeah. And I think you need to, right? Like, a quarterback's best friend is a really good run game. And it's not going to be like a situation in Seattle where they're kind of taking the ball out of Russ's hands and it all revolves around the run game. But yeah, you have two stallions. You don't keep them locked up, right? You got to let them run. You're not going to keep them in the stable. And I think they have someone really truly special in Javonte Williams. And I really like Melvin Gordon. And obviously, he maybe has like a handful of years left. He's a little long in the tooth, especially compared to Javonte, and is a very good running back in his own right. But man, watching Javonte his rookie year and some of the runs that he ripped off, he just seems different. Like he seems like a different, like very special talent. And you see a guy that runs like that, and you really hope that he can stay healthy and stay on the field. Because you don't see a lot of guys like a Javonte Williams. And so I think, like I said, you have talent like that. You obviously have to use them and you have to feed them and make sure that they're getting the ball. But there's so many weapons, right? I feel like not enough people are talking about KJ Hamler, and we might not see him during this training camp, but that's another guy that I work with. He is way ahead of schedule in terms of his recovery. He's doing great. It's just one of those things where he wants to make sure that he's absolutely 100% ready to go for the regular season. Jerry Jeudy, obviously, we've all seen the flashes. We all know what he's capable of, and if he can live up to that bill of who he is, one of the best route runners in the league and gets open better than almost anybody. And then Courtland Sutton and Tim Patrick, of course, like the stalwart wide receivers, the super reliable 6'4" twin tower guys out there that you just know you put the ball in their vicinity and they're coming down with it. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, this might be the most well-rounded stack offense from a personnel standpoint Russell Wilson has ever had. If you look back at his career, Russell's never had like a really, really good number 3 wide receiver. But now on this team, it's like you have 3 guys currently who are all good enough to be number 1 wide receivers in their own right. And then KJ Hamler does things that very few wide receivers are capable of. So it's going to be a lot of fun to see how they're able to get all of those guys kind of working in unison and working together and making sure they're getting their targets. And this should be a lot of fun to watch this year.
I 100%. So have you been out to camp once or twice? I
just went the first day, and it's funny. I see all of this stuff on Twitter, and I love the highlights and people saying, "Oh, on this play, this guy did that, and this guy looks good, and this and that." First of all, they're in shells. They're right. Not really hitting, and that kind of, it's hard to say who it gives an advantage to. You could say the defense has an advantage because the offense can't like really lock in their blocks on the offensive line, so it's considerably easier for the D line when they're just in shells. It's practice, right? They're going through things. They're seeing what works. They're seeing what doesn't. You usually see the defense get the better of the offense, especially early in camp, because the offense is kind of filling things out, going through, certain parts of the playbook of like, what kind of concepts they want to run and what situation. And so I think people just put too much stock into, well, who had a good day? Who had a bad day? Like, what did Russ look like? Like, who caught the long ball? Who did this? Who did that? And so it's like they're ironing out a lot of things. And when they're going in their live period where it's offense versus the defense, you just can't read too much into it. Now, if there's a really big splash play or something remarkable happens, it's going to be a highlight reel and this, that, and the other. But it's important to kind of like stay grounded. And it's important to realize that any given day, like either the offense or the defense will look not as good as you're hoping. Because if the offense comes out and lights it up, which we're all hoping that they do, then we're like, oh, well, the defense has been the best part of this team. So now that the defense doesn't look good, what are we going to do? And then if the defense gets the best of the offense, which they did for the first day that I was out there yesterday, then it's like, oh, we get Russell Wilson and we get a new head coach and it's all the same stuff. And it's just like people overreact. So all I'm going to say is like it's important to stay grounded and just be patient and wait till that first game, because you never really know how good a team is going to be or what they're actually going to look like until the season starts. And really by like week 3, 4, 5 is when a team really starts to hit its stride and you see what kind of football team they're really going to be.
Yeah. And then we have the preseason as well. I think, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I think preseason's going to start looking a lot different than it has in years past. I think you're going to see less and less of your top guys playing in those.
You're absolutely right. And that's more of a matter of like Fangio's not here. Fangio wanted the guys, and of course there's no quarterback competition, so you don't need the quarterbacks to get any reps now, which is great. But yeah, Fangio, he put too much of an emphasis on preseason games, and he's giving the guys a rah-rah. It's like if a guy's, maybe not 100% and certainly not healthy enough to be playing in a preseason game, he'd hit him with you got to do it for your brothers next to you. You got to do it for your teammates. And it's like, no, man, it's preseason. Like, why would I go out there and risk my body when I am needed during the regular season? So yeah, I think you're dead on that. It's going to look a little lethargic. It's going to look a little pedestrian because maybe Russ gets some reps in a preseason game, but that's going to be up to Russ if he feels like he needs that game action. But I would be surprised if you saw Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick, Jerry Jeudy, Javonte, Melvin Gordon, Bradley Chubb, Justin Simmons, a lot of these guys, like maybe a couple series throughout these 3 games. But yeah, I don't think you're going to see much of them at all in the preseason. And that's kind of how I want it.
I want to circle back to before I forget on something. So you touched on something. I had a question. And I think when I was alluding to training camp, and I know what your observations or what the crowd's observations or what Twitter's observations are, that's debatable. Oh, the defense is better. Oh, whatever, this play, that play. But you've been to the last few training camps. You've seen them under the different coaches. What is it? The energy has to be different because Russell Wilson's there. But
honestly, man, like the biggest thing that I noticed being there yesterday, there was like this weird aura, right? You're like, it just feels different than it is in the past. And I'm at the tent with friends and family, and I kind of look over. There's Sierra with her kids, and it's just like, wow, that it's like surreal, right? And then they come out and they're stretching, and Russ goes down and fires up the crowd, but that used to be Vaughn, or Justin did it a couple times, or that guy, different kinds of warned the crowd. So yeah, okay, that felt kind of similar. But when Russ came out of the tunnel and fans saw him, it was standing ovation, right? You didn't see that for Drew Lock, Teddy Bridgewater, Joe Flacco, Case Keenum, Paxton Lynch,
okay, that's
Trevor
enough.
Siemian.
That's enough.
Sorry, it was making me nauseated just listen off some of those names. But and so that was a little different. But again, it's it's first day and there's high energy. The biggest thing that I noticed though, there was music, and it seems so arbitrary, right? It seems like such a silly thing because Vic did not allow music at training camp. And, the older generation, the Mr. Poopy Pants guys that you're going to listen to, like, well, they shouldn't need music and they don't need to listen to music. They got to focus on football. No. I'm like, listen, there have been a handful of times that I go to the gym and I forget my headphones or my earbuds and there's no music. It's awful. It's always the worst workout. It's hard for me to get motivated. And it's just like, how are you going to be so stuck in your ways that you're not going to be more receptive to what literally every single guy in that locker room wants? Like you could go 1 to 53 of all the dudes on that roster, and you could say, do you think that there should be music at training camp? You could ask all the practice squad guys. You could ask all the camp invites. Every single solitary player that is out there wearing a Broncos jersey, you ask them, hey, should we have music? They're all going to say, yes, absolutely. And then it just takes one dude, one old fart of a guy to say, we're not going to have music. And it's so silly. And honestly, music has effects, man. There have been studies done that music can make you feel some sort of way. And so you could actually get a better practice out of guys. You can get dudes running a little faster and hitting a little harder and just a little bit more dialed in because they've got the vibe of that music. So that was the biggest thing. And I'm like, it came on just kind of randomly at practice. And I was like, oh my God, music is back. It was it's such a little thing, but then so big at the same time,
Yeah, I totally agree. What'd you have, Willie?
Like, what's gonna happen with Patrick Surtain? Like, what is he gonna? Is he gonna like prove himself in preseason, or will he need to try and prove himself in the regular season? Like, what's gonna happen then?
Can I qualify something?
Mm-hmm.
So I think Bronco. I don't want to speak out of turn, and you're definitely more in it, being in Denver. But I think Bronco country, he's just going to keep leveling up. Like that's how I see it. But I don't think the rest of the fans maybe understand, and I see him as a defensive MVP candidate. Maybe not this year, but that's what I.
He's special, man, and every year there's guys at training camp and there's guys on the team. It's like, oh, this list of 5 guys, like these are the 5 best players on the team, like your stars, right? And watching Pat Surtain move and play and diagnose what's happening, like there's not a weak part of his game. First of all, he's bigger than maybe 95% of corners. Like the dude's built like a safety. He's actually built like linebackers were built in like the 70s and 80s, right? Like before they got really big. He's a big dude. And for as big as he is, he's unbelievably fast. It's like somebody that big and rocked up should not be able to move. And it's not just like straight line speed. It's getting in and out of cuts and flipping his hips and being able to like show that burst and that closing speed. It's unbelievable and it's elite. But more than anything is how he's able to diagnose the play, where it's like the majority of the time he knows what route the wide receiver is running before he runs it. He knows where the ball is going. And so the reason I think that people want to compare him to Champ Bailey, it's a lazy comparison if you're just saying, well, he's a really good corner like Champ. The reason that you would want to compare those two is because Champ Bailey was arguably the smartest cornerback that the NFL has ever seen. He was obviously a very gifted athlete, but I had heard stories about Champ Bailey from training camp and practices where he wouldn't even really lift. He wouldn't really practice that hard. He would just show up and he was just better than everybody. And he knew what every single wide receiver, like every single route that they were running on any given play, where the ball was going, all the different reads. And it sounds like Pat Surtain is the same way. And you know that he's elite because when he was a rookie, and corner is a very, very difficult position to play in the NFL, especially as a rookie. Typically, if you're a rookie corner, the quarterback is going to pick on you. The quarterback's going to go to whatever receiver is being guarded by the rookie corner. But Pat Surtain was so good his rookie year that by like week 6 or 7, you had veteran quarterbacks, like top quarterbacks in this league, who are looking and saying, this guy's being covered by Surtain. I'm not going after him. I'm going on the opposite side of the field. And when a guy like Justin Simmons comes out and says, I don't have to worry about the side of the field that Pat Surtain is on because I know it's taken care of, that's maybe the highest praise that you could possibly get from the best coverage safety in the NFL, to say, I literally don't have to worry about one half of the field because that's how good Pat Surtain is. So whether it's week 1 or week 5 or week 16, throughout this next season, I think you're going to see Pat Surtain solidify himself as maybe the best cornerback in the entire league.
I mean,
I'm on the same hype train, by all means.
It's a big take though, because you still have like Jalen Ramsey, who had a pretty underrated last season. Like,
very true.
Even though he was still on the team of champions, he was like not being treated like he was 2 years ago.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then you have a rookie. You have a rookie going into his second season being like, is he going to live up to what he should be living up to?
Here's what I'll tell you, Will. I don't think Justin Herbert will throw a pass his way next year.
Yeah, I think Justin Herbert still has nightmares of Pat Surtain. No, Will, you're right though. It's like we've seen a lot of different times where a guy has a really good rookie year, and then next year not as good, or maybe his rookie year is really good, and then he's never that good again, right? Like, because that's a lot of pressure. and it's a really difficult position to play. So I think, we'll see. I think he certainly has the capability to be really good, but man, you're right. He's got to go out and prove it.
Here's the other thing I like, that you've got someone like Simmons, who's, again, I call him the best safety in the league.
Yes,
I'm just rolling with it.
Yeah.
But you have that guy in your meeting room. You have Surtain going up against Court, Patrick, Judy, and I think the one thing that he probably doesn't get, but I wouldn't be afraid, you can stick him on Waller, you can stick him on Kelsey. He's going to be just fine. And I think that's that old iron sharpens iron when you're going up in practice against guys like that. And the highlight 100%. They showed today, I just took it for what it was. It was a great defensive play. That the one that was circulating today, where Court was
it looked like Cortland was going to moss him, and Pat did exactly what he was supposed to do as a corner. Yeah.
Then I'm like, I saw people arguing in the comments. I'm like, that was a hell of a play. That's all it was.
Man, you just
nothing bad.
Yeah, you can't read too much into that stuff, because it's just people just want to be miserable. Some people just want to complain about stuff, right? It's like you don't have to listen to certain radio stations because you're not in Denver, and like just count yourself blessed, because it's a narrative that they like to push, and they want fans to think that this team isn't very good, or they want to go after the low hanging fruit and give their negative hot take, and that's not what I'm about.
No, and let's beat the Justin Fields, Pat Surtain thing. I mean,
Lord have mercy, man.
Go. Let go.
You know what's going to happen 20 years from now? Pat Surtain's going to be in the Hall of Fame, and D-Mac is still going to be saying, "Well, I know he was good, but at the time they should have drafted Justin Fields." And he's going to be like some senile old man, and everyone's going to be like, "No one knows what you're talking about, Darren."
I'm glad that I have enough space that I could see it come across the timeline, but it's like, I hope for the Bears' sake, Justin Fields is everything that they want him to be.
I like Justin Fields. I root for him, but it's just like Pat Surtain is already considered a top 10 corner. Like, why are you trying to argue that they should have taken somebody else? Like, look at the position that we're in. Can't you just be happy? Why do you need to write an article about what we should have done differently? Which, by the way, had we done that thing, we would be a worse football team right now than we are.
And we would not have Russell Wilson.
Exactly.
So, Will, you want to start some of the over-unders?
Sure.
So we're just going to throw out some numbers. These aren't even betting lines. These are just kind of numbers I had in my head about,
cool.
Where do we see some of the guys landing?
Russell Wilson, 4,250 passing yards, over under.
Ooh.
I gotta go under, because it's his first year with a brand new team. He's never gotten traded before. I think he's gonna get close to the 4,000 mark.
I'm actually with you, Will. I'm gonna agree and say under. You're right about the new offense and kind of getting on the same page, but also there's two really good running backs, and I think if Russell throws for less than that amount, the Broncos are going to be okay as long as they're running the ball. And I almost feel like if he starts getting up into the 4,500s and close to 5,000, that is going to start to worry me a little bit, simply because that tells me that we're not running the football. So I'm with you all the way, man. Under, but barely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think 4, 38, 39, 4. I'm more. I think 30 touchdowns over under, and I would probably take the over on that. I think he's going to be getting a lot of not easy throws, but a lot of shorter throws as they approach the goal line. People stacking up for Javonte, expecting him to get the ball and then hitting Sutton or Patrick in the back of the end. I think there's going to be a lot of those short touchdown throws.
Yeah.
Well, if you think about it, go ahead, Will.
No, you can go. I was just.
Oh, I was just gonna say.
I was gonna start another over/under question.
Oh, okay, yeah. Real quick to that. Like, if you're saying 30 touchdowns now, if he averages 2 passing touchdowns a game, that's 34.
Right.
So I don't think it's ridiculous to think that Russell can average 2 passing touchdowns per game, right? And I'm sure he'll have games where he'll have 3, 4, sometimes maybe 5, and there'll be games where maybe he doesn't throw a touchdown or he throws 1. And I think 2 per game is about a good average that I can see him easily getting to. So I'd say around 34, 35 touchdowns is very attainable.
And then Javonte 1,300 rushing yards.
That's another one. Like, I think if they hadn't re-signed Melvin Gordon, that's easy, right? Like, he's probably getting maybe even like 1,800 level if he reaches his potential. But because Melvin's there and Melvin's still a very good running back, and it's going to be like a 1A, 1B, but Javonte will get more carries, I'm going to say it's under, but I do think that both guys get to 1,000 yards.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah, I like that.
I would say the same. I would say Javonte, it's his second year, and last year he just didn't touch the ball that much, and he still got 600, 700
He was
yards.
at 800, and they were almost identical.
Yeah.
The numbers.
Yeah.
And Javonte didn't touch the ball nearly as much as Melvin did. So I think he's going to be a little under, but he could definitely reach the 1,300 mark.
I agree 100%.
All right. So Cortland, 1,100 receiving yards. And I know he's capable of it, but
yeah, and the thing is, it's tough because Russell likes to spread the ball around, right? Like, for as good as DK Metcalf was, and he was their best receiver, like Tyler Lockett also put up a lot of yards, and there were a lot of other dudes, like a lot of other receivers that you otherwise never would have known that Russ, I wouldn't say made like household names, but he turned guys into NFL starters and very viable options. And so the only reason that I would think Cortland doesn't get to 1,100 is just because they have so many good wide receivers. I am going to say over, though, because I think Cortland is wide receiver 1. I think it's going to be a situation where Russ is going to trust him the most out of any of the receivers, where it's like, if it's third and intermediate or third and long, or they're in the red zone, I get the feeling that Cortland's going to be that go-to guy. Like, he's going to be the first read. And even though, like I said, you have 3 guys that can be considered number 1 wide receivers, I think Cortland is the true number 1 wide receiver. And so I think he gets over 1,100.
Okay. We got over there.
And then
what did you say? Is he?
I would say he's gonna I think he might be maybe a little under 1,000 because he's in a brand new system with Russ, and then for the first time, I think in his career, offensive coach. So
yeah, it's a good point.
Like, it might be a little hard for him because he's not used to maybe getting the ball that much because his coach normally was on the defensive side of the ball. So you really can't, like, it could be a hot take. Like,
no, man, I agree with you. It is a hot take, but I like it. See, it's okay to have a hot take if you could back it up the way that you just did. Bad hot takes are when you just say something crazy and then you don't defend it. As long as you defend it, it's all good.
Yeah. You got the next one?
Yeah. Jerry Jeudy, 8 touchdowns.
Look, I just want to start with 1, right? Like,
he didn't get any last year, right?
Hey, if Jerry could just score a touchdown in game 1, and I feel like you got to see it. I feel like they're going to get to a point where they're like inside the 5 or they've got a goal line situation, and then they're going to call one of these plays that it's like a walk-in touchdown, or like the little like a push pass or something like that, just so he could get that monkey off of his back. Where it's like, man, 0 touchdowns last year, and then look, boom, game 1 already has a touchdown. I think Jerry is going to explode this year. I think he leads the team in receiving yards and touchdowns, and so I'm going to go over the 8. I have very high expectations for Jerry this year because I also think it's a make or break year for him.
Yeah,
I gotta
agree.
say under. He's in a brand new system, like I said, with Cortland Sutton. Like, I think he could get close to that mark, but it's just last year he got 0.
Well,
So
now hold on. I'm gonna get some household fire going here. The quarterbacks we've had the last few years couldn't fog a mirror, so we got a little bit different, captain back there. And I think what you talked about earlier, Will, with when they're not in camp or the times and spending a week at his place in San Diego, that stuff's going to pay off in spades. Like that is going to do better. And as Matt just said in the comments, can't do worse. Can't get negative touchdowns. So
exactly. Everything's uphill from here, right? It's all up now.
So you like the underdog? That's fair.
I'm going under. It's just what it is. Like, even though he does have Russell Wilson, if Russell Wilson doesn't pan out, what's going to happen then?
Okay.
Why would you say that, Will? If he doesn't pan out, we're all in trouble, dude.
Who brought mini Skip Bayless over here? What is this?
Okay, next question.
Ay.
Oh man, that hurt my soul.
Bradley Chubb 9 sacks. Over or under?
I'm gonna put my faith in Chubb, man. Like Jerry didn't have a touchdown last year. Chubb didn't have a sack last year, right? And obviously he missed about half the season. He missed a lot of games. And that's always been the thing with Chubb, right? Like, he hasn't played a full season since his rookie year. But, man, do you remember the rookie season? He was so good. The dude was unstoppable. I know he was on the other side of Von Miller, and that helps. But he was playing like a top 5 pick the way that he should. And then he just hasn't been able to stay on the field. I think this is a big year for him, not just because I want him to do well and because the Broncos need him to do well, but this is a contract year for him. And I think if he has another down year, he might end up being one of these guys that has to sign a 1-year prove-it deal, which is a little bit of a fall from grace from what we saw his rookie year. And so when you are out there competing for a contract and you're in a contract year, that typically tends to hit different. Now, here's the thing. I think that he reaches double-digit sacks. The problem is if and when he does, he will play himself out of a contract in Denver because I just don't think the Broncos are going to retain him if it's going to cost them too much money.
Yep.
And I don't see a scenario unless Bradley really wants to stay here and takes a little bit of a haircut to stay in Denver. I honestly don't see a situation where they retain him because if he gets hurt again and he has another down year, they're not going to re-sign him. And if he has like a tremendous year and has a really good year, they're not going to be able to afford him. And then if he has kind of like a middle of the road, like somewhere between 5 to 7.5 sacks, something like that, you're not going to want to pay him a lot of money, but there will be another team at the premium that pass rushers are at. Another team will overpay him, and the Broncos aren't going to want to do that. They've got Justin Simmons on a good contract. Garrett Bowles is expensive. They saved a ton of money by signing Tim Patrick and Cortland Sutton, but that's still money. If Jerry Jeudy explodes, you're going to have to pay him here around the corner. Draymond Jones eventually is going to cost you a lot of money. Pat Surtain is going to absolutely break the bank. I think eventually he's going to be the highest paid corner, the way that Justin was the highest paid safety. And, of course, you got to worry about Russ. You have to take care of Russ, and that has to be priority number one. And so when you're working out contract stuff, you have to figure out where you're making your investments. And at this point, like long term, I think I would be more comfortable with them securing Pat Surtain and a Draymond Jones over a Bradley Chubb. And again, it's nothing against Chubb, but I think they have good depth there. They just drafted Nick Bonito. They moved Baron Browning to edge, who I absolutely love. They signed Randy Gregory, who hopefully can get healthy. Like, they've got guys at that position. So it feels like it'll be Chubb's last season. I hope I'm wrong, but that's just how it's.
I'm hedging. I'm going to hedge this one because I think Chubb's sack numbers are in proportion to Randy Gregory's time on the field. I think if Randy Gregory is able to play 75% or more of the snaps,
That's a good way to put it.
You're going to see that kind of like Chubb's rookie year, where there's success on both sides. But as much as I like the talent, that's actually one position I kind of worries me a little bit with regard to health.
Yeah.
We got two guys that have a track record of not being able to stay healthy. And then the guys behind them are, I think, fantastic athletes, but playing the edge in the NFL is no joke. And that's the thing that gives me a little pause. If we're healthy out there, I think it's a big year for the defense. But
that's the biggest if. That's like all Colorado sports, right? Stay healthy.
And I feel like Bradley Chubb, the reason he didn't get a sack last year is because he was out for most of the season. And he can't really do much about that instead of come back and try and do your best. And then he's like the only good rusher we have right now.
Well, if Gregory's not healthy, but here's what I will say about Chubb. He is healthy coming into the year. And was the last time you were able to say that when he was a rookie? Is that the last time he was healthy?
Yeah, well, he was I don't think he had anything going into his second year, but then that was the year that he tore his ACL early on, if I'm not mistaken. So, but yeah, this is the first camp that he's been 100% for a while.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, without Randy, I think he's gonna have not that big of chance to go out and do what he wants to because he just doesn't have the other defensive help that he needs trying to get sacks. Like
there could be.
I think
I do like the D line. I actually love our D line.
Mm-hmm.
I love the guys that they're going to roll out there as starters on the D line. And I think that there's enough space eating and interior pressure with the guys. We've got, both Jones, DJ Jones, right?
Yep.
The one for San Francisco. Draymond he's a player that the rest of the people around the league especially fans are going to find out more about this year.
100%. Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of moving components. I'm so hopeful that Chubb gets back to that top 5 pick, why he was drafted.
Me too, man.
Seeing those highlights.
Yeah. It's hard to say that he's going to get more than 9 sacks. It's just hard to say that. I hope he does, but I think he's going to get under. I'm going under.
Okay.
All right, we're going to hit these two simultaneously because I want to be respectful of your time, and we've gotten way over what I had planned.
That's all right.
All right, so Simmons over under 4 interceptions. That was quick. Okay. And then PS2 over under 5.
Under, and here's why. They're not going to throw at him. He will get a couple interceptions, but it's going to be like Darrelle Revis. You look at Darrelle Revis's career numbers, he doesn't have a lot of interceptions, and I don't think he ever had a season where he had a lot of interceptions, compared to like a Jalen Ramsey or a Deion Sanders or even a Champ Bailey. Didn't Champ have like 10 1 year in 05?
And it was like, why did you throw at him?
And that's the thing, right? And so I think we're seeing now that quarterbacks will just avoid that side of the field. Now you're still going to get, a guy like Mahomes, maybe Herbert, they don't play him, but a guy like Rodgers, where they're going to try him every once in a while. And so he'll have some opportunities to get interceptions, but by and large, man, I don't see quarterbacks going after him. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I think now that our offense is better, that opposing offenses are going to have to take more shots, because in the past, opposing offenses had to score 17 points and they knew they were going to win the game. So they don't need to do anything crazy. They need to manage the game. They don't need to take any shots. Now that our offense is hopefully going to score more than 20 points a game, I see the opposing offenses are actually going to try and push the ball downfield a little bit more. So I think there'll be more opportunities, and that's why I said Justin's going to be over 4.5, and because Justin is just that good. But yeah, I think Pat is under. I think we're looking at like 3 or 4 picks for him this year.
I gotta say over, because if Simmons locks down the other side of the field with his zone, and then with PS2 can go man to man on his wide receiver and lock down that side of the field, I think they're gonna each be pretty even, and I'm going over.
All right. I hope you're right, Will.
So
I like it. I hope you're right.
I see you're over with a bunch of balls being like deflected, and because Surtain is such a tuned in with what's going on in the play, those are the balls. Yep. Okay.
Could be.
I'll go up and get it. So I'm not even going to ask you the question because I know your answer.
I'm going to ask it then.
Which one?
Hit me.
That one?
The starting line will be.
Oh, man. All right. Garrett Bowles, obviously, left tackle locked in. Dalton Reisner is going to be the left guard, but we are going to see a camp battle between him and Netani Moody. They like Moody a lot. He trimmed down, so he's going to be able to move a little bit better in this offense, but he's going to be a really good backup. I think Cushenberry starts at center. Quinn Miners will be the right guard, and Calvin Anderson will be the right tackle. I think the biggest question mark, honestly, is going to be that left guard position, if I'm being honest. And it's not about Dalton, because there were rumors that the Broncos were trying to trade Dalton. And I think it's a contract thing. Like, his contract is coming up. How much money do you give a Dalton Reisner who's, an above average to very good left guard, but he's a left guard? How much money are you giving an interior offensive lineman, especially when they have the depth that they have right now? So, they could try and deal him, since this is his contract year, depending on how much they like Moody. And then you still have a guy like Graham Glasgow who's around, who can fill in. Tom Compton, honestly, is going to be more of a guard than a tackle. I know they kind of hyped him up as a right tackle when they signed him. He can play right tackle. He's better suited at guard. And then Billy Turner, same kind of deal. He can play right tackle. He's a very good right tackle, but can also play guard. And so they have, kind of an embarrassment of riches of guard. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. But that's the starting offensive line from as of today that I'm going with.
So I knew his right tackle answer. That was a no.
That's my guy.
Yeah, I know.
I'm actually going to go. I'm actually going to go to his house and work on him as soon as we're done.
Okay. Well, we'll get this.
So this one quick.
Sure, we'll try and fly through that one.
Are we NFL division winners?
Yep.
So
we're going to win the division. We're going to win the conference. We're going to win the Super Bowl. High five.
Yeah.
I think we might get second.
Will, don't say that. Have faith. Drink the orange Kool-Aid, Will.
Right. Well, if you're in the division, like, the Chiefs are the king until they're knocked off.
Right.
But they're not. I don't think on their moves they're as good a team as they were last year.
No.
Nope.
But I think
every team in the division got better, and the Chiefs got worse.
I'm changing my answer. We are division winners.
Yeah.
We are Super Bowl winners.
I like it, Willis.
My man, that's what I'm talking about, Will. Yes.
Okay, so we are going to. So we got a little. Let me get this up here. So here is for the Javonte Williams giveaway. And I've got on a separate tab up, so my boys have a YouTube channel called 501 Adventures. Will, you want to tell them a little bit about what you guys do?
So we go places around the United States, and we're gonna have our first out of country one in a little bit, but we just post videos on what we do while we're in that area, and what we do while we're there.
Yeah, so they my wife has a travel company, and this is kind of one of her arms is to get them involved. They get to do they create and build out all the videos themselves. So first thing you got to do to get into the Javonte is to subscribe to their channel, and we'll do that. If you haven't already, subscribe to mine. And then the last thing we're going to do is post in the comments how many total touchdowns, passing, receiving, throwing, I don't know, Javonte will have this year. So we'll kind of give everyone a little.
We don't know that question just yet, but that's just
that's just kind of to make sure we've got a little bit of engagement in the chat. That's also so I can track and check names. So all right, Colton got in there, so I know he added that. So we've got a couple. We'll give that just a little bit of time while we're kind of filtering through that and letting folks get those in. Mario, who do you like for the NFC West?
That's a pretty stacked division. I think it's going to be the Rams until it's not. Right? They've kind of shown that they don't care about draft picks. They bring in big name players. There's not a lot of weaknesses on that team, and they're defending Super Bowl champions. And so I think you got to keep rolling with that team until they start to disperse. And eventually it's all got to fall apart, right? Like they can't afford to keep paying all these big name guys and getting rid of all their draft picks. But I think until that point, it's going to be the Rams. I think the Seahawks are in a rebuilding year. Arizona, I just don't believe in Kyler Murray enough. You know, they're the team that starts hot. They're great at the beginning of the season, and then they just fall off. And San Fran, you know, the biggest question mark is going to be Trey Lance. You know, they're now going to trade Jimmy Garoppolo. They said that Trey Lance is going to be their starting quarterback. So will it be like a situation like the Chiefs where, you know, they sat Mahomes his rookie year, they went to the playoffs, had a really good season with Alex Smith, and the following year, Mahomes takes over, and you know I think they were the 1 seed and takes them to the AFC Championship game. So are we going to see a turnaround like that, or are we going to see now the 49ers, who have gone to the Super Bowl recently with Jimmy Garoppolo, were one dropped interception away from going back last year? Like, are they going to be able to finally get over that hump with Trey Lance, or are they going to go in the opposite direction? So for now, I'm going to say the Rams.
What other division, Will, do you want to? Oh, I think this. Sorry, you tell them one. I got one in my brain because I think it's going to be an absolute bloodbath.
What do you
mean?
mean?
There's a division I've got in my brain that I think they're just, besides the AFC West, that's just going to be absolutely brutal. But
I forgot what the division was, but they last year it said that they had the best it was like the best division ever. It was somewhere in the NFC.
The NFC West was really between the Cardinals, Niners, and the Rams was
I think
super.
They all made the playoffs.
But I think the AFC North is going to be just brutal.
I think it's the Ravens this year, and obviously there are question marks. The reason that the Ravens weren't as good last year is because Lamar Jackson was hurt, and every single running back on their roster was hurt. I still think that they're the team to beat. I don't believe in the Browns. I think this Deshaun Watson situation is just an absolute mess, and I mean, he's going to miss the first 6 games of the season, and they start off 2-4. I feel like would be best case scenario for them with Jacoby Brissett starting, and I think they would be lucky, you know, if Watson's out 6 games to go 2-4. So I don't believe in the Browns. I'm not quite on the Bengals hype train. I know their offensive line got better, but it's not that much better. And it was kind of an anomaly that they went to the Super Bowl despite their offensive line being that bad. They just got hot at the right time. I mean, if you remember, man, when the Broncos and Bengals played last year, they had the same record. And then the Bengals won out, the Broncos lost out, and they kind of went in opposite directions. Yeah. And I love Joe Burrow. I love Jamar Chase. But I don't know what it is. I just can't get behind the Bengals again. I don't think that we're going to see them be in a Super Bowl for a long, long time. And I think that was their chance because they caught fire at the right time. And, you know, we know what's going on with the Steelers. I think they're going to have a down year. We don't really know who's going to start between Trubisky and Pickett. I'm sure Trubisky starts the season, and maybe by week 10 or 11, you're going to see Kenny Pickett, unless, you know, Trubisky plays so bad that you see him sooner. But that's going to be a tough situation. We might see a couple down years for Pittsburgh the next few seasons. So I'm going with the Ravens in that division.
Yeah. Go ahead, Will. Sorry.
I have to say Bengals because they did get hot at the right time, but also they had one of the worst offensive lines ever to make it to the Super Bowl, which with Jamari Chase, or is that his name? Jamar Chase, and then Joe Burrow. Like, I think I saw this YouTube video of Joe Burrow bought a house for Jamar Chase. So that
dang, I wish my friend would buy me a house.
I know. I need new friends.
Jeez, right? We got to branch out.
It's crazy, and I feel like that like chemistry is going to get a lot better over this year, and I feel like they will maybe make it. I think they will be the division champions.
Right on, man. I dig it. We shall see.
And I think our person who's going to come, I don't want to say crashing back to earth, but I guess I'm not a believer, is Mac Jones and the Patriots. I think that division got a little better. I think Mac Jones is going to struggle comparative to last season. I think teams are going to throw a lot more at him, but I'm not quite buying his hype from last year. And maybe Belichick is just that good of a coach, but
it's going to be interesting though, man, because now that McDaniels is gone, who's calling the offensive plays?
Yeah, that's a good point too. So
yeah, I don't really believe in the Patriots this year. I think the Bills are the best team in the NFL, like top to bottom. Honestly, I think Josh Allen is the best quarterback between what he's able to do with his arm, what he's able to do with his legs. He's unlike anything that we have ever seen. He has the weapons that he needs to be successful. They could be better at running back. You know, they drafted Cook. And it seemed like they didn't love Singletary because they just didn't put the ball in his hands as much as they needed to take some pressure off of Josh Allen. But that offensive line is good enough to where they should be able to establish the run. And that defense is stacked. I mean, that is a really, really, really good football team that you're going to see playing late in the season. The Dolphins obviously got much better. The Jets, I think, are considerably better. And so I think you're going to see a drop-off of the Patriots, which is wonderful because they have been good for way too long, and their fans do not deserve to see a winning football team.
Sorry, Colton, one of the guys in the chat is a Patriots fan, and I don't think he's real happy with this right now, but that's okay.
All right, man.
That's all right.
You had your time in the sun, okay?
Right now, I think he's the only one that's followed the instructions for the giveaway, so I might not even have to run the wheel of names here.
There you go.
Mario, do you want to join in on it?
No, man, let someone else get that card. I appreciate you, though.
Mario, you've been more than generous with your time. This went way longer than I had anticipated, but
it's all good.
It was awesome. The content was.
I know I'm a little long-winded too, so.
Well, I've been called verbose
my fault.
before, so we really appreciate it. I can't wait. Next time we're out in that area, if we get out for a game, I'll try and reach out to you and
100%.
Try and say hello. But I'm going to double check before we sign off so everything looks above board. But it looks like, and I know I'm going to try and figure out if I can throw this tab in to our stream.
Just press the button to see if anyone did.
Well, of course, now this looks shady, but right now Colton's the only one that has subscribed to 501. So
no, you're going to press the
Okay, I'll try one more time. Yep, still the same one, still same Colton. So, Mario, we're gonna let you go. I'm gonna take a screenshot of the subscribers, and we will catch up with you later. I can't wait to see you in your belly shirt. So take pictures, whatever that is. I don't know. I think you should have gone with the half and half.
Oh, that thing's so
Matt,
ugly.
I got 2 here. All right. So we'll let Mario go, and then I'll run the wheel of names, and we'll catch up with you. So thank you so much, sir. Have a great night, and we are very appreciative of your time.
Fellas, thank you so much. It's awesome that you asked me. I'm honored that you thought of me and you wanted to have me on your show. I really appreciate y'all. And man, yeah, thank you, and go Broncos. All right, and I'll
Broncos.
talk
Go
to you guys
Broncos.
soon. Go
All right.
Broncos. God bless, guys. See
See you
ya.
later. All right, Maddie Slate. I apologize. I did not see that one. So this will be pretty easy. I need
Go back on
to
wheel of names on there.
change. So put in Matt
Matt.
and then do enter Colton. So I will share.
Did I do it right? Did I not do it fast enough? I don't know.
No, you're good.
Oh, shit.
Hold on. Just a second. There we go.
Press on the tab.
Owen.
Oh.
All
All
right.
right. Let's spin it.
So Will, go ahead.
3, 2, 1. And it's going to be Colton!
Nice.
Colton won that
Colton,
one.
I have your address. So I will get I'll switch back to this one. I will get that one out to
It's a
you.
sick card.
I can't quite see it there.
Out of 50.
And I'll see what else I can throw in. So I appreciate you guys hanging out. Slay, and why don't you send me a DM? So you were hanging out all night. I'll put something together for you as well. So you guys, thanks so much. We're out. We are so ready for football season. Training camp is in full bore, and we will catch up soon. All right. Have a
Bye.
great night.